Welcome to Into the Bench podcast, episode 6. As always, I got myself and Jonathan Slaughter. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Finally enjoying some Texas heat here.
There you go. As long as it's not raining there and flooding you guys, and it's probably a good thing during the summer.
It's probably just going to be a drought now, so it's all good.
That's fine. We've been living with one for a few years, and we're dealing with it okay. So I think you guys might be able to handle it. So we got NBA Finals to discuss. We had probably one of the best series of all time. I know you really love Game 7. You think it might be your favorite game you've ever watched. I'm still dealing with it. We'll pretend like that's why we haven't done this until today, because I just got over my morning. This is actually the first day since Sunday I haven't worn all black. So I think I'm in a pretty good place now, hopefully. But we'll talk a little bit about the game. We can start with things the Cavs did well. And what ultimately we think probably cost the Warriors the series at the end. So if you want to start on the Cavs, just some key points you think they addressed in that series, obviously to help them come back from 3-1, but really to be pretty successful all series.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is they didn't turn the ball over, especially in game 5 and 6. 7 was more sloppy. But in 5 and 6, I think LeBron had 3 turnovers.
He had 3 total in the 2 games.
Yeah, and that's really bizarre. So, that keeps the Golden State transition at a minimum. Then, they kept rebounding the ball. And Tristan Thompson, did what he did. And he was finishing at the rim, which I didn't think he did last year, and which he really didn't do at the beginning of the series. And I thought that was going to be a real problem. And he caught some alley-oops that I didn't think he did. He had some interesting, left-handed hook shots, which I'm not really sure he knows what hand he is, but I guess it kind of works in his favor because the other opponent doesn't really know what he's doing. And J.R. Smith and knocked down shots. The supporting cast helped, and then obviously Kyrie was there to stem the whenever LeBron would sit for those 4 minutes, he was there to carry the team. It seemed like every time, and and he hit big shot after big shot. What do you think? What do you think they did well? Did you think Lou specifically did anything that you applauded, or was it just kind of LeBron being LeBron?
LeBron. I mean, it's never going to be widely accepted in basketball circles because Michael Jordan is a deity. But I think he's just the best to ever do it. And when he gave 2 out of the 3 best performances of all time on Basketball References game score in games 5 and 6, he was spectacular. You mentioned the turnovers. That was his biggest improvement. He went from averaging, I think it was 4.5 a game in the first 4 to 3 total in games 5 and 6. And you put that on top of 41 points, over 10 rebounds, over 10 assists, 3 blocks and 3 steals a game. And that's the stuff that legends are made out of, and that's why he's won. Wow, that was really bad. Hot take. Legends are made of. That's a phrase I don't use very often. I thought your point on Tristan Thompson was great. He was a beast. He had 9 rebounds in the first quarter of Game 6. So he was spectacular in Game 6. I don't know what happened to all the big men in the playoffs that couldn't shoot free throws, but they looked like Rick Barry out there, minus the underhanded stuff against him. He knocked down a ton of huge free throws in Game 7. I think he was 5 of 6 at one point, maybe 6 of 6 late in the game, and I thought that was a big difference that nobody's really talked about. But he knocked down a lot of big free throws.
I think he still only shot in the 50s percentage-wise for the whole series, though. I could be wrong.
Maybe it's just – yeah, I think you're probably right on that. It just felt like he knocked him down in big moments. At least he did at the end of the game in Game 7. I thought Kevin Love, for all the garbage he got throughout the series, was really good in Game 7. He was a plus 19 for the game. Probably overstates his impact a little bit offensively, but he was great on the glass. He and Tristan Thompson were both beasts on the glass in Game 7. J.R. Smith. Go ahead.
He found an niche, effective, even though he really wasn't knocking down shots.
Yeah.
He kind of just said, screw it. I'm just going to start attacking the glass and try to be, what Tristan Thompson was doing. And, I think he realized that after game 5, because, he played so poorly in game 5, and when he had 2 points, and, they were both free throws. I think he was only 2 of 4 from the line even. So, it was just a terrible performance. And then game 7 comes around, and he really seemed like he kind of found out what he was supposed to do against this specific team.
Yeah. I think a credit to that point is that what do you think odds in Vegas would have been of the series clinching play being Kevin Love isolated against Curry out on the post and keeping Curry from getting a good look at 3? He was a dog in that game in the pick and roll. I mean, it's something that the Warriors clearly tried to exploit a little bit. He was really good in hedging Curry hard. He forced him to half court a couple times, pick up the ball, make some passes. So he was really good in that game. I wonder if he started to feel better after a concussion. I mean, I know he played, and if you're playing, I don't consider injury as an excuse. We'll talk about that a little bit with Curry, but I wonder if he started to feel better in game 7. You're right, he found a niche, but he got hit in the head pretty hard, and he missed a game with a concussion. And then I think you're right. The role guys showed up. Shumpert hit a jump shot for the first time in a series in game 7, it was a big 3. It's still a confidence boost to your team. I don't think it was anything Lou did specifically. I think it was LeBron and Kyrie being great when they needed to be, and just really, really good performance from them, especially down 3-1. You put your backs against the wall and buckle down. I thought it was a little bit about what Golden State didn't do well as well. Harrison Barnes was, after a great game 4 where he had 20 points and 8 rebounds, a complete no-show in games 5 through 7. I would imagine he lost himself some money in free agency, but with all the money that's going to be out there, who actually knows? It looked like game 7, Iguodala and Draymond Green were the only 2 guys that really came to play. I think guys deal with pressure different ways, and maybe Curry deals with his by, calming himself down the moment and trying to tell himself it's not, because he looked nonchalant all of game 7. Clay, I just think he didn't shoot. He just picked a bad night to not shoot the ball well. It's not really his fault. And then they had a lot of trouble with Tristan Thompson on the glass. I thought Kerr's decision-making wasn't great. I know Harrison Barnes isn't playing well, but they weren't killing them on the glass late in the second half. They did an okay job then. And to sub Bazili in for rim protection, which I don't know if it was that important in the moment. And then he gave up, the 3 free throws of LeBron James and a 3-point jumper. And then Varejao minutes were just a waste in game 7. So I thought there were a few things the Warriors could have done better. Curry didn't look like himself, which you can call it an injury. He probably wasn't 100% okay. But he's out there playing, but he it was not a good performance by him. It was probably an all-time worst finals by an MVP in the numbers. So he's getting a little bit of grief, but he probably should be getting a little more than he was, because he just wasn't good in that series. What do you think about Golden State's performance?
Yeah, I think one thing I would like to touch on is that what Lou did well versus what Kerr didn't do well is that Lou shortened his bench so much, and he basically only played 6 guys. He had Mo Williams play, I think, 5 minutes at a time or something like that. He really shortened his bench. And Kerr, and I'm not really sure what it is with Kerr, but he's either stubborn or he just doesn't like to play his guys a lot of minutes. And I don't know what you're saving them for in game 7. I don't really care if Curry's injured or Clay's shooting poorly. I mean, those guys have to play 42, 43 minutes a game. The only person he really does that with is Draymond. And I'm not sure why he doesn't do it with anyone else. And then, going big instead of staying small, I think would have helped. Like you said, Varejau's minutes were awful. The Azili substitution will, practice, in my opinion, I think that cost them the finals. There's a lot of questionable decisions made by Kerr there. And on your point about Curry being nonchalant, I think that's just kind of how he is. I don't really think that's him being nonchalant, because people say that about Harden. Like they say, he doesn't get angry, or, it doesn't really look like he's being aggressive. And I just think that they're just kind of a cool personality, basically. They don't swing too high or swing too low, which I think a lot of times can be good. So I don't really think that pass obviously was terrible by Curry, that behind the back pass.
Oh yeah,
to Clay, but you know, you got to take, like with Russ, let Russ be Russ. You got to let Curry be Curry, and he's just going to make some, crazy passes that are not good. But a lot of times he makes crazy passes that are good, and
yeah.
that's
You can't. It's tough to criticize it, right? In the NBA Finals when it's worked for him all season. That's everybody. Well, we went for the home run. Well, going for the home run won you 73 games and got you to the NBA Finals, and had one game at home to win it all because that's the way you play. So it's tough to criticize in the moment. I thought body language wise, that's where I thought he was a little more not. And I thought that was from like game 4 of the NBA Finals on. Generally, he doesn't. I mean, he was pouting more. He was sulking more. He was kind of, I don't know. He just didn't look like he was completely in the game for those last 4. I guess that's probably what I mean more by nonchalant. I understand he's going to shoot 30-footers when they're wide open just because he can, and throw those behind the back passes. It was more of a body language thing with me. It looked like he was, frustrated and trying not to let that get to him. And by doing that, it maybe caused him to look a little more nonchalant out on.
yeah, and I think he lost confidence in his defensive ability, which I think hurt him on the offensive end. Whether that was in his head or whatever the deal was, but he clearly lost something. There was a reason that he was reaching so much and picking up all these fouls, and some of them were ticky-tack fouls, but I mean, he was reaching a lot on these screens. Yeah. and there were some of them that weren't called that could have been his 5th fouls in the third quarter, and some in both, I think, games 5 and 6. And I think he just lost confidence in his defensive ability and his ability to stay in front of Kyrie. And you credit Kyrie to that. He made he made a lot of tough shots, and he's a great finisher at the basket, just like Curry is. So I think I think that translated over to his offensive performance, unfortunately.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. If you get picked on the way he did, they put him in every screen and roll.
He's probably tired.
Worked him a lot. Yeah, he's tired. You get guys going at you like that, you start to get a little bit like, well, man, this sucks. You have to guard LeBron James in post-up situations, which late in Game 7, I actually thought he did okay. Well, I mean, LeBron probably settled for it more than he forced him into a jump shot, and it was a late clock situation, but he got a big stop there. But I think you're probably right. I think that was frustrating, and I mean, we're both pickup basketball players. You know how deflating it is to put a hand right in a guy's face after he dribbles the ball 10 times like Kyrie Irving tends to do, and then he just puts it right in your eye. I mean, that's a really deflating feeling, and that's something he's used to being able to make someone else feel on the other end. And in that series, he got a lot of it from Kyrie. Clay got a lot of it from Kyrie. That's probably the guy that has not been talked about enough because LeBron won this title for the city of Cleveland, and LeBron was spectacular in the last 3 games. But in Games 5 and Game 7, Bill Simmons tweet after Game 5, which was at the end of the third quarter, he tweeted and said LeBron had played 75% of the greatest basketball game ever played. And then the end of the game, it was LeBron played 75% of the greatest basketball game ever played, and Kyrie Irving played the other 25% of it because he was spectacular in that fourth quarter. He made a lot of incredibly difficult shots. Clay, I thought Clay did a really good job on him watching the game, and I watched the fourth quarter back the next day, and I thought he was in his grill. He was forced to take a lot of tough shots and was really, really good. And then to have the gumption to just pull up from, he was a good couple feet behind the three-point line in Game 7 and knock that shot down. And I sit like in the corner, cat-a-corner to that shot. So as soon as I left his hand, I had my hand, my head in my hands because it was going in. There was no doubt about it when he shot it. You could tell based on ball flight. And he deserves a lot of the credit. He's not getting, he's getting talked about, but not quite as much because LeBron James was the man in that series. But he really helped carry that team late in Games 5 and 7. I guess one more point to the Warriors and their struggles. They did not get off to good starts, which they don't. Sometimes they put teams away early, but they don't always get off to great starts. But Game 6 specifically was talked about for officiating because Curry had 2 to 3 poor foul calls against him, but you can't bring up officiating when you let a team go up 22 on you in the first quarter of a basketball game. They lost that game by letting Cleveland get off to that hot start, and I thought throughout the series they were a little slow starting, and that hurt them a lot too. It just looked like maybe they had that mentality. Every loss they kept going, well, we like our position. We're up 3-2, or we're going home for Game 7. And I think they didn't come out with the urgency that Cleveland did, thinking, "Oh, we got to win a basketball game." And I think maybe that mindset, especially not having Draymond Green in Game 5 to probably yell at those guys, "Hey, close this basketball game out," hurt them a lot.
Yeah, and I think one thing, I'm not sure if Lou did this or they did it on their own, but like you were saying, they were attacking Steph in every pick and roll, and they were trying to get the matchup that they wanted. And I believe that there's some credit to that for Lou, because he talked about it in getting that switch to Steph onto Kyrie whenever Kyrie made that shot. He said that he called that timeout, not for like a play, but just to get that switch. And then Kyrie can do whatever he wanted. And I don't think Kerr stressed it enough on Clay on Love whenever he was in the game, making him, all these pick and rolls. I think maybe they had Curry too much off ball, or they just didn't attack the weaknesses as consistently as Cleveland tried to attack the Golden State weaknesses. And that's how you have to do it. That's how you have to win. That's how they won last year.
That's how Golden State generally blows people out and wins basketball games, right? They pick your one weakness and they beat it to death until you change something. And then usually when you change something, you don't have your best lineup in the basketball game, and that's when they can kind of beat you even worse. But yeah, you're 100% right. I hadn't thought about it like that. That was probably a Lou thing too, that he probably stressed that Kerr just didn't take advantage of on the other side.
So, but well, should we talk about LeBron now?
Yeah, I think he probably deserves a little bit of. This was going to be a 4-hour podcast, all of LeBron praise, and we were going to put LeBron pictures up on the screen and everything. We thought we would actually talk about the NBA Finals. I already said it. I think he's probably the best to ever do it. I think he gets way too much flack for losing. If other guys just never got to, right? I mean, do you want your guy to lose in the conference finals so he doesn't have that loss in his playoff record? Kobe loses in the first round or whatever. But that's not held against him because he's 5-2 in the finals. Sorry, Kobe stans. You can comment on the video and let us know what you think. We'll be happy to go at it with you. Yeah, it's like I texted you after the game. They show during the whole trot through the Eastern Conference playoffs for LeBron that 50-win graphic. How many 50-win teams has Michael Jordan beat, Magic Johnson beat, Larry Bird beat, and then LeBron's at the bottom. He's only beat 7 of them, so he can't be that good, even though he's played in more playoff games than those guys. Well, next year I want a graphic that says how many 70-win playoff teams has each of those guys beat. So they can all say 0, and then LeBron James says 1, because he deserves that graphic up there, because the Golden State Warriors are a really good basketball team. I think they're probably still the best basketball team in the NBA, regardless of fact. I mean, in that series, they were not. Cleveland outplayed them in the last 3 games, but he just beat a team that did something that Jordan's Bulls teams never even did. So I'm excited about him. He's still a little passive-aggressive and a prima donna, but he's a heck of a basketball player, and he deserves all the credit that anybody will heap on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a monumental performance, I think, potentially, with just everything that was bestowed upon him, and a little bit he did to himself, but just having to carry the city, and people were talking about that they didn't really think his crying was real or whatever, and I think he definitely, right. I mean, it's just I can't imagine what kind of emotion that overcame him in that moment, and it potentially is the best individual achievement ever, given the fact the status of the Warriors, what it meant to the city, and just not even for the Cavs, but for the sports city of Cleveland as a whole, and all the heartbreak they've had. It would almost be like the Sabres winning, or something like that, if they had the best player in the league, after all those failed Bills teams or something. I don't know. It's really incomparable. and it was really cool to see. And I've loved watching like all the celebrations, which I'm not usually a huge fan of typically because I think they overdo it. But for some reason with this Cavs team, it seems more enjoyable. Mostly because I don't think like JR's like put on a shirt since he took his off after the finals
in Vegas. Yeah,
he's been and he was
he
shirtless.
definitely hasn't. He came off the plane shirtless. He's been shirtless on the parade. The Vegas should have a over-under on the amount of time it takes to have some sort of this celebration with everybody on the Cavaliers team shirtless. I'm going to include Tyronn Lue in that because I assume eventually he's going to end up shirtless as well. But yeah, it's so much fun watching J.R. Smith. Kyrie Irving was I saw a video of J.R. Smith pass Kyrie Irving a bottle of Hennessy today that they had snuck on the float and Kyrie was drinking out of it. That was awesome. That was my favorite thing so far.
Of course, JR has the Henny on deck.
Yeah. Somebody photoshopped. There was a picture of him celebrating into the building from a car, and somebody photoshopped all the people as. It was really spectacular.
But yeah, so and then and to accomplish that with the performances, like you said, two of the best three of all time. They've have them above Jordan's 55-point game, which maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. It's debatable, but it's probably definitely two of the top 5 performances in the finals of all time in back-to-back games. On your deathbed, basically needing the wins. I mean, phenomenal. And then to close it out, while he didn't shoot great, I was in here. We were talking about it in the sports radio in Houston. And, they were saying, Kobe in his last game 7 shot 6 of 25. Jordan in his last game 7 shot 9 of 24. Akeem in game 7 against the Knicks shot, I don't know, like 10 of like 27 or something like that. People just don't shoot well in game 7s because, it's usually a slow game. It's been a long series. Really, they know what you're going to do. And you just don't shoot well. So I don't really, put a dent in what LeBron did. He hit the second biggest 3 of the game. He made all his free throws from the Ezeli foul, which, he's not the greatest free throw shooter. He made them all. And then, and he tops it off with a triple-double. I mean, I don't know what more you want from the guy.
Well, not only – and then he the knock against him all year has been he's a step slow because he's older. And then he comes in 1/30th of a second before Andre Iguodala's layup hits the backboard, flies like 12 feet from the basket. Nobody's going to think I'm a Warriors fan after this, by the way. Flies 20 feet from the basket almost and just pins it. And that's that. If it effectively gave them the opportunity to come down and have Kyrie Irving hit that 3.
That was the greatest block I've ever seen, just given the circumstances. Just amazing. I think I squealed. Like when he did it, I was like LeBron or something. Like I don't know. Like what was the stadium like at that time? Where they just like
I was completely silent.
It was. I think I had to be a shock, right?
Well, there were a decent amount of Cavs fans there.
Oh, were there? Okay.
So they were obviously rambunctious. They were excited. I yelled. I was like, oh. And I didn't mean to. I was a little bit embarrassed by it, but it was that was a great basketball play. So I think I think the only real knocks and problems that are ever going to go against LeBron and his legacy are the fact that he dubbed himself the chosen one with a tattoo across his back at 18 years old. He made the decision, which probably was more people in his ear trying to him at the end of the day. And he does, LeBron loves him some LeBron. I've said it before. He lost he would have lost a little bit of respect if he hadn't played like he had in games 5, 6, and 7 with the whole I take the high road thing after stepping on Draymond Green. Like, I got no problem with you doing it. I have no problem with you baiting Draymond Green into that flagrant foul, but at least own up to it and be like, yeah, it was a little bit of gamesmanship out of me and like, whatever. And then he wore the I actually did appreciate that he wore the blue Ultimate Warrior shirt with the Kermit the Frog hat in the celebrations. That was fun because people are always going to talk about him. And some people are going to talk about him negative light because it's just how it is. I feel bad for the people that don't appreciate what they're getting to watch, right? Like, I never liked Kobe particularly, but I understood that I was watching a really good basketball player.
Yeah.
And some people can't get that past LeBron. They can't get past that for LeBron James to understand, like, this is one of the premier talents. So I'll listen to any argument for Magic, LeBron, or Michael, and that's just how it is. But you're watching your premier talent.
Is that, you know, and I think everyone was rooting for him in that final game. Like, that final game for Kobe seems like so long ago because so much has happened with other ridiculous stuff, and that's amazing because it's only been 2 months, less than 2 months, or about more than 2 months, I guess. But, and, you know, everyone was rooting for him, even if, you know, I'm not a huge Kobe fan either, but everyone was rooting for him to have, you know, a good game. And I hope that, like, LeBron gets, like, a moment like that, you know, at the end of his career with something similar, because that was a lot of fun. I still have that game saved on my TiVo, in fact.
That's funny. I have all the Kobe Bryant Ghostbusters commercials saved in my TiVo. I don't know how many.
Why do you have them saved? You can go watch. You can just flip it to ABC, and you'll probably see them.
Yeah, it is crazy that nobody's talking about that. 2 months, because I mean, it was the first round was really boring, but the conference finals, as far as the Thunder Warrior series, and then the finals was probably an all-time great series. That was a great Game 7, a lot of fun to watch. A little sad I spent all that money coming back from Philadelphia a day early.
You wonder if
I wonder if assuming they'd win Game 6.
The Thunder series, like, you know, tired them out a bit, maybe. I mean, that was a draining series, and, you know, they came out so strong. It was the inverse of every Warriors series of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah,
they started strong and finished poorly, and usually they, like, let the other team get ahead, and then they just, like, win 3 in a row, and it's over.
Yeah, they trailed to the Grizzlies last year, and then trailed to the Cavs in the finals, and they trailed to the Thunder again, and then this time they jump out to a big lead, and
they didn't. Yeah, and they played their 2 worst games against the Rockets in the first 2 games, in my opinion. Even though the Rockets won Game 4, I feel like they did. You know, that obviously didn't matter, but
that was a great James Harden game. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, so were the first 2, and they started slow then, and then really, you know, put the pedal to the floor in the 3rd game. So it was just a really strange performance all around for the Warriors.
That's crazy. I wonder how much a Donatas Montejunas floor sweat had to do with deciding what happened. I mean, we'll never know. Unless, like, Curry gets off-season knee surgery or something, we're never going to know, right?
It's it was just a bizarre thing to watch.
Just a freak accident.
I mean, I was at the game. It was weird. How you know, how can you expect that to happen?
It's just like when
just fell.
went up,
just clumsy.
When Patrick Beverly ran, you know, everybody goes up and tries to steal the ball when somebody goes to the corner and calls a timeout. And the one time he does it to Russell Westbrook, he hurts his meniscus, and that essentially, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's just the Rockets. Maybe you guys are just
we're assholes.
NBA championships down there. Anyways, great series, phenomenal series from LeBron. Really cemented his legacy. That was the first text I got from one of my friends from high school. You just watched LeBron cement his legacy, and I was like, dude, it still hurts, but yes, it's cool. So I guess we can talk about the Cavs off season now. I mean, they're kind of capped out. Like, they got to sign J.R. Smith. I would assume there's not a lot of replacements they'll find out on the market, especially with a lot of money there. And J.R. Smith, maybe he can sign a new contract to buy himself a shirt. Who knows? I guess the only real decision that they have to make, because most of their guys are locked into long-term deals, are they going to deal Kevin Love or not? I think there will be suitors for him. I think Boston's a place that he would want to go. I think Portland would probably be a decent fit for him. Unfortunately, I told you, I said I think he should go to Houston. It'd be a lot of fun to watch him and a D'Antoni offense, screening and shooting, getting the ball in the high post. But I don't think you guys have enough assets, unfortunately. What do you think of the Kevin Love situation? Should they keep him? Should they ship him out?
I personally think it's a bit overrated.
Plus 19 in Game 7.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I was getting at it earlier, is that I guess it's a little bit of the versatility of his talent, is that how he was able to affect that Game 7 so well without really scoring, which you probably wouldn't have said back in his Minnesota days, even though he is a great rebounder, but he really put it together. I think that this trade stuff is a little overrated because had they played the Thunder, I think he averaged like 21 points a game against the Thunder during the regular season. And, there's just some teams that he's like a really, poor matchup, and Golden State just happens to be that one. But I think he's a really great matchup in almost every other team that they were going to play. He would have brought out Duncan or LaMarcus Aldridge and really, created spacing there in that series. So I think it's a little bit overrated in a reaction to him. Like, yeah, I think you're right. The concussion symptoms were probably, not helping him, because Clay, even last year, right, whenever he fell on his head in the Houston series, he didn't play great in the first couple games of the finals after that.
Yeah, he was definitely out of it too after that fall.
And, and he actually hasn't really played. He's had a couple good finals games in 12, 13 finals games. He's only had like two or three really good games. But I think that factors into it. And I think it's a bit of an overreaction. I'm not sure what his market is, I guess. I guess it doesn't hurt to feel out what other teams would want to give up for him. I don't think his value is super high, and I'm not really on selling assets whenever they're not at their fullest. So I don't know. I think he ends up staying. I would say 75% chance he stays. I'd be pretty shocked if he didn't.
I think I'm probably in the same boat. I'd be surprised if they traded him soon. I think there'll probably be some offers out there for him, but they did just win a championship. And the only reason I see to really move him is your three best and highest paid, best, Tristan Thompson. Three of your four best players play power forward as their natural position. And for LeBron James to be as effective as he's going to be in the latter stages of his career, like you said, he's past his prime, even though he doesn't look like it sometimes. His best position is power forward, running the offense out of the post and getting guys in there. So it kind of feels like they got a lot of redundant, very expensive contracts to play the same position, because obviously Tristan Thompson's your starting center for the foreseeable future, and like I said, LeBron's best position is power forward, and that just kind of leaves tough fitting for Kevin Love and their scheme. Whether 25 or 22 million, 25 million to come off the bench is a lot of money. It almost seems like you could get younger, get some better wing players, maybe in a trade. Maybe if they could somehow swing getting Jay Crowder to play the small forward for him, that would kind of fit what they want to do, a 3-and-D sort of wing. That way you don't have to play Iman Shumpert as much. But I think there's some trades out there. I'd be surprised if he left just because they won a title and he did play well in Game 7. There's going to be some euphoria and go into the season to repeat as champions. So I ultimately think this roster primarily stays together in the offseason, just like you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other big thing is outside of Boston, there's not really suitors. And, Nate Duncan talks about this a lot, where people are having to match up, their timelines with, the player's age. And I feel like Love, for people that have the assets to trade for Love, like Denver or something like that, he's not really on their timeline of winning. He's a little older.
Yeah.
So, Boston's probably the only one that I can really think of that would be even, close to wanting to win now, that has the assets to deal for him. So, and, they might blow that up if this, like, Jabari, for the number 3 pick thing goes through, because then at that point you really don't need him. So,
exactly.
So I don't know. I think there's just too good of a chance he stays.
So I guess we got the other team to talk about now. It's full panic mode in Bay Area sports talk radio right now after a team won 73 basketball games. What should they do? Should they do this, that? I don't think a lot. I think all you really have to do is keep Curry, Thompson, Draymond, Iguodala, and Sean Livingston. The rest of it, you can kind of, Kevon Looney's obviously going to be back, being on his rookie deal, but the rest of it, you can kind of mix and match. There's some ways you can go. As a Warriors fan and basketball fit, I think the ultimate wish list is Al Horford. If you can't get Al Horford, maybe Joakim Noah. They're going to get meetings with everybody. So you assume you get at least an opportunity to pitch them, right? And then I think Kevin Durant's the biggest pipe dream, and we both don't think there's much of a way he leaves Oklahoma City, but I assume they'll get a meeting with him. Who knows? And then if no Kevin Durant, Nicholas Batum, I think he fits from a versatility standpoint. Defensively, he can shoot the ball. I think Al Horford's probably the biggest get they could get. They could sign just because he would offer them opportunity to have 5 players on the floor that could shoot the ball and be a rim protector. He's as good a passer as Bogut is, and he's a pretty good defender too. So we'll see where they go. I think there will be obviously some changes to that roster. Stearns will be back. There's no way they're going to match $20 million that somebody offers him. Maybe they will. Who knows? I think Ezeli's probably going to get a max offer. That's going to be tough to match too. So I think this roster is going to look pretty different going into next year. But as long as, like you say, you got that core group, I don't think much changes in the way of performance. What do you think about Golden State's offseason?
I think that they'll end up bringing Barnes back, actually, because I think you can move him. They picked a good year, I guess, to be looking for a center. The center class is pretty deep in free agency. They could fill in with someone, maybe Mahimi or something like that at, 12 or 14 million a year or something like that if they end up missing out on like the big guys like you were talking about. The lack of big men, I think, really hurt them at the end of the day. Ezeli's going to be gone, and I would really be shocked if Barnes isn't back. There's just not a lot of great wings out there. I mean, and if you're banking on getting Batum, and I'm not sure. I mean, I guess I assume that they have enough cap space for Batum and like a reasonable backup center, but I'm not sure.
I guess Batum again is a wing pipe dream. They have guys like Dudley you could go out and get, who I think would be a serviceable. I just think you have to. It's tough to re-sign Harrison Barnes because in my mind, the Harrison Barnes starting experiment is over. It's time to start, at least in the playoffs, because it's time to start playing Andre Iguodala. The minutes he needs to be playing for this, and have your highest paid player be a guy who you don't trust and who doesn't come through in big situations is a locker room dynamic. I think that because these guys have been together long enough and their chemistry is pretty good, is probably handleable, if that's a word, in this locker room. But it might be tough for them. I don't know. For Harrison Barnes to be making $20 million and be a guy that maybe those guys don't trust. But yeah, I think that in that way you could let him walk. Even sign a Jared Dudley to be a backup small forward. He can play a little bit of forward. He's shown that he can guard pretty well in the post, and then start Iguodala. It's just an option. I think they have options, which is the best part. They're not pigeonholed into like we need this, except for probably a big man. But I think they can figure things out in the way they want to play and find the people that best suit them. If that means bringing Harrison Barnes back, it means bringing Harrison Barnes back.
I'm not sure they want to start Iggy only because, he's getting older, and that back thing is really going to be an issue going forward. I think they would like to have the luxury of having someone like Harrison Barnes to really play the bulk of those minutes, and then you can have Iggy as needed against guys like KD and LeBron. I'm not sure how many more years he's going to be able to give you, 43 minutes of excellent defense. And I think additionally, it is weird having Barnes be your highest paid guy, but if he can be a really good off the bench guy, and Kerr just needs to realize that he has to start Iguodala sooner in these series against the elite forwards, and he has to, if the Warriors locker room and how he's been able to command them is at the level that we think it is, then it's obviously not going to hurt anything. And he just has to make that switch sooner. And it's nothing on Harrison Barnes. They're just significantly better than he is. And I think, he knows that. We all know that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I didn't take Steve Kerr's influence in the locker room enough to account. I think guys like Draymond Green, I think their core, this will motivate them a little bit. Somebody called in to a talk radio show I was listening to and said it's really a good thing that they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals. And I was like, yeah, you can spin it however you want, man. Whatever helps you sleep at night. But you'd rather have the championship every single time than motivation going into the off season. But with that said, I think Draymond Green's going to get significantly better and probably a little more likable for someone like you, because I think he understands that his antics cost the team a little bit, and he'll understand going forward how to better play on that edge and hopefully control his emotions a little bit, because he was fired up and emotional in Game 7, but he also didn't do anything particularly stupid and played a really good basketball game. So I think he thinks he cost his team. Yeah, I think he was probably, as well as LeBron played, probably the best player on the floor in Game 7, at least in that first half.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he thinks he cost the team the game. So he's gonna work hard all off season. I think, provided Curry is as healthy as I think he is and is done recharging his batteries hopefully earlier, he'll hopefully be motivated. I thought he was going to come out upset in Game 7 and motivated after that tantrum. I was kind of excited about the tantrum, and then it didn't do anything, unfortunately. I think Clay took it the hardest. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing I think that why they needed someone big like Bogut is, we kind of joked about it here in Houston, but they really missed his screening, I think, to get they were getting some open shots, but they weren't getting as many as they used to. And Bogut's screening ability is one reason for it. He sets a lot of bad screens, good for the Warriors, but he also is a really good screener as well. So I think that they need someone to fit that prototype to help them just get open shots, because it's something that he can do while he's not being super helpful on offense. In terms of scoring, he's a great passer and he's a great screener, and they need someone to kind of fit that mold, I think, to help their starting offensive dynamic, because they're not going to start Draymond at center.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the last point I'd make about the offseason is Klay Thompson. If you watched the interviews and saw quotes or whatever, he definitely took it the hardest, it seemed like, of anybody. He was, other guys had not dealt with it were still upset the next day, but he had no desire to talk to anybody. So I think this motivates Olympics. I think that'll be good for him to get some basketball under his belt before next season, kind of get this out of his system. But ultimately, you want him to win, but I think it motivates him, and they got a lot of options going forward. They're still in a good place with a fairly young core, and then some aging guys, like you said, Iguodala, Bogut, if he is retained. So I guess that's the season. We had a great NBA Finals. It was a lot of fun throughout the whole playoffs. Keep doing this throughout the off season. Maybe do some free agency podcasts. Maybe a draft review after Thursday.
Yeah, we should do we'll do a draft review and then some trade talk, because we had a couple.
I guess we got the Derrick Rose bomb today and stuff like that we'll have to.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that next time now.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, all right.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll check back in with you, let you know when we're going to be back on to do some draft stuff. Talk to you later, man.
See ya.